I'm looking here at some we are going to look at some Europa League matches. If I select the market I'm interested in, we're going to have a look at the Liverpool match because that is looking the most interesting at the moment. Here we go. I'm going to have a look at the over and unders market because the situation that we're faced with the over and under market in this particular match is that Liverpool have a 1-0 lead from being at home in the previous leg. So basically their opponents this evening will have to overturn that 1-goal deficit. So they must score in order to have any attempt at going through to the next stage of the competition. And Liverpool must obviously try and avoid defeat. If Liverpool can score, that changes things dramatically. So I suspect that Liverpool will go into this match with a view that not conceding is the number one priority, and then trying to get a goal on the break is probably the next priority. If a goal is scored, then the match suddenly opens up dramatically because a goal by Liverpool would certainly see them through to the next round. But conceding a goal would create just a few issues. But then they would have an away goal if the match is 1-1. Anyway, there are lots of combinations, but I expect it will be quite a cagey start to the match. So this lends itself quite well to trading under 2.5 goals. If I fire up the Soccer Mystic, what we can do is have a look at what could happen within this match with 2.5 goals. So check the signal strength to start with, and we can see that it's very strong, which is what you'd expect with a match with pretty good liquidity. And you can see here that the current price is 168, and Soccer Mystic is more or less concurring with that. There's 0.5% of book over around here, so that can be redistributed one way or the other. If we look at what happens during the match, I'm going to turn this into an odds chart. I'll limit the odds, we'll say to 60 or something. You can see here immediately that when the match starts, the odds are going to be at or about 168 or thereabouts, about 170-ish. And you can see that if there are no goals, then the price of those odds will continue to fall. So this reflects the fact that the probability is getting higher. So as the odds move, so does the probability, and so on. So if we expect this to be a low scoring match, then it would make sense to back under 2.5 goals. I'm going to use the scenario indicator here, and you can use this to summarize basically what would happen. So we'll set the odds to the current market price that's available, and I'm going to say I'm going to back under 2.5 goals at odds of 168 using a stake of, let's say, £100. And then Soccer Mystic will basically look at this match and say, what are the, let's see what happens to this graph here. So in 5 minutes after the start of the match, if there are no goals, you can see you'll be in a slight profit, and after 10 minutes, then obviously you'll be in a heavier profit. But if a goal is scored, then obviously you would lose money. But an interesting thing happens in this market. If I just put this to one side here, if a goal is scored, say after 25 minutes, I'm going to remove the over because I'm not interested in that market at the moment. You can see here that the price on the odds will come in, so we'll start up here, and then at the point at which the goal is scored, then the odds will jump back out again. But then immediately, because the match is still only 1-0, i.e. under 2.5 goals, then the odds will start to come back in again. So if a goal is scored after 25 minutes, it would take until about 54 minutes before the odds reach the level at which they were before the goal was scored. But of course we're not particularly interested in that. We're interested in, if we've backed at the start of the match at about odds of 170, how long will it take to get back to that point? And when will we no longer see a loss? So if we put the profit line on, you can see that draws a nice big line. Whoops, if we switch it on the right market, that draws a nice big line across where your entry position was in the market. So you can see here that in fact, if a goal goes in after 25 minutes, which we've put up here, then it would take about 10 minutes for the price to come back to the level at which we could break even. Now, of course, if there's a lot of goal mouth activity, you may want to close out your position in this period over here. But by drawing this line across the graphic here, basically all of this value underneath here, as it says down here, represents back value. In other words, if you back at the start of the match, all of this area here is back value, and also all of this area here is back value. The only time at which it would make sense to place a lay bet is in this area here. So this is how you can use Soccer Mystic to predict and look at elements of the market and which strategy sort of makes sense if you're going to back before the start of a match and lay off or back off in play. So, of course, if there were a goal after 25 minutes and 30 minutes, then you can see actually this whole area here represents lay value. In other words, if you laid before the start of the match, then this whole period between, let's have a look, 24 minutes and 71 minutes is areas where a lay strategy would be profitable. Now my view, and I could be wrong on this, but my view is that this will be a low scoring match. So I wouldn't expect a flurry of goals, and in fact it's going to be quite tight for a period of time because nobody will want to concede. And you may find that you get to half time and you get to the point where perhaps no goals have been scored, and then strategies will chop and change according to what happens at half time. But you can see here, if we put our mouse at or about the half time level, it reckons that the odds on under 2.5 goals will be around 114 if there are no goals by half time. If there's one goal by half time, it reckons the odds will be around 152. And if there are 2 goals, then the odds will obviously be much higher. So let's go up here and see if we can establish. Here we go. The odds would be about 3.3 or thereabouts. So by backing at the start of the match and then laying off in play, you can create a profitable position, and Soccer Mystic will allow you to measure and say, well, if by half time this has happened or that's happened, this will tell us exactly what our upside and downside position will be. The interesting thing is you can seek the break-even point as well. So if I go in here and I type in 35 minutes, that's not quite enough. 36, 37. So somewhere around 36 minutes. You can see here, price comes down, goal scored, and we'll still be in profit. So you can reinterpret how you look at the match by saying, if a goal is scored before 36 minutes, you'll be at a small loss by backing under 2.5 goals. But if a goal is scored after 36 minutes, then you'll be in profit, even if a goal is scored. So again, allows you to frame and put some up and downside element on your risk. So if I go into here and I say what will be the situation after 36 minutes, 37, 38, you can see around that time you'll start to profit. So if we reach half time and we're backing with £100 under 2.5 goals at 168, and there's only 1 goal in the first half, you'll be in profit. If there are no goals between now and when that goal is scored, you'll definitely make money, and even if a goal is scored, you'll make money. So interesting angle on things, and of course the advantage with over 2.5 goals is you don't have to worry about who scores the goal first. But I suspect this evening that first goal scorer will radically reshape the rest of the match. So anything that you were going to do in the match this evening, you'd have to consider the scenario immediately after that first goal goes in. Because if Liverpool score it, their opponents have a significant mountain to climb. If their opponents score it first, changes the complexion of the match completely. So anyway, there is Europa League trading under 2.5 goals. I've appended the Betfair chart from this match so that you can actually see how the prediction came out versus what actually happened. Now actually there was an early goal in this match, but you can see that the price shot out and then came all the way back in at half time to pretty much where we thought it would be. It's ever so slightly out, but not very much. It's important if you look at the Betfair charts to realise that you're not looking at a linear plot of what has occurred here. The Betfair graphs don't represent time correctly. So if you look at a Betfair graph, it will very often look different to the sort of thing that you'll see on Soccer Mystic, but that's simply because they don't plot it over fixed time periods. The time period varies. But there you go. There's proof in the pudding, as it were.